So today is one of those, info sessions we sponsor, WeCloudData sponsor for all the members in the Miracle group. And today we will just talk about resume, and particularly for data analysts and business intelligence analysts. Now seem fancy, but there's one particular things that might be of interest to all of you. How to write a resume with no experience, but you can still get interviews. This is something I will talk more in details. But first of all, I see that some of you are already sending each other LinkedIn request to connect. That's great. And it's permanent. LinkedIn is the largest professional networking tool that you can use to connect yourself to the community. And it's always a good idea to connect with people who already made it, who are already working in the field, either as a data analyst or business intelligence analyst. Data roles in general, involves coding and involves sometimes cloud computing technology, and sometimes it also involves the visualization tool. So I'm going to talk about tools and the project separately. To start with, I want to show you a resume. This is the resume. Let me just. I'm hoping you can see it. If it's too small, let me know. I just want you to have a single view of the resume. So this individual, if you take a look at this one-page resume, there are actually two pages. The second page is not part of the resume. It is a portfolio sample. It's work sample. I think it's a great idea if you include some of the work sample. People will spend most of the time reading the first page, but the second page, even if you spend only like 10 seconds, it will leave you with the impression that this individual has done some really good professional quality work, right? It's industry grade. And let me just go back to the first page. So as you can tell, this is a one-page resume. I highly recommend you keep resume within one page, not because you are a new grad or a recent grad, you don't have that much experience to put on a resume. Even for people with 5 years experience, I still recommend you keep everything within one page. I'll tell you why. Most people, most readers, they will not spend time reading the second page. So whatever you put on the second page, basically, it's not going to be read. Two-page resume is a turn off. People look at a two-page format, they already feel tired. So it's not easy to switch everything within one page, but I highly recommend that you put everything in one page. That will do you good, that will benefit you. If you look at this one-page resume, it is actually very simple in terms of structure. Top of the resume, you see the individual's name and contact details. There is also one particular link, and this is a link to the portfolio. So first, last name, email address, phone number, and the portfolio website. After that, actually 4 writing blocks: skills, work experience, project experience in education. Okay, so I'm talking about the individuals with no work experience. I can break this down into two different situations for students or for graduates who just come out of school with no experience at all. You know, it doesn't matter if it's relevant experience or irrelevant experience, no experience, zero, nil, nada. If that is the case, you know, I think you only have skills, project experience, and education, and project experience becomes extremely important. Okay, so in that situation, the project experience basically substitute for the work experience. We also have working professionals from different fields, from different domains who are trying to break into data space. So in that case, you do have had some work experience behind you, but it's irrelevant or less relevant. In that case, I still want you to put your work experience, could be 1 job, 2 jobs, and 3 jobs, but reduce the size of it, the size of the writing block, and actually put project experience on top of your less relevant work experience. So the sequence and the order of the writing block is extremely important. So you need to prepare for the readers who are not going to spend too much time on your resume, not even, you know, the first page. So if people spend only 20 seconds and 30 seconds, and whatever they finish reading is probably, you know, people's reading habit is from up, down, right? So you need to put the most important writing block in the upper half of your resume. So in my opinion, your name, contact details are, of course, important. That's always at the top. And then skills are the most important. And then followed by either your project experience or highly relevant work experience. And then you can decide which one is more relevant, and then you put that on top of the less relevant writing block. And education goes all the way to the bottom. Okay, so I hope this is clear to you. And I encourage everyone to please raise your questions if you have any. So I'm going to close this one, and let's go to today's presentation. Okay, so this, I put this as a BI learning path. This could be DA/BI. Okay, and there's one question from Sophie. What should we do if we have more experience that is older? Okay, how do we order it? And it's always the most recent job first, right? Let's say somebody has 15 years experience, and that person has had maybe 3 to 5 jobs. I really want you to cut it back to the bare minimum. And doesn't matter if the job is not relevant, you could still put the company and the title and from too, and without bullets, without bullet point. That's probably the extreme, the minimum. There are times your job involves somehow, you know, data or data analysis, but the title is not, you know, data analyst or business intelligence analyst, but your work actually involves data. And if that is the case, I think you can rewrite it to be more relevant. And there are things you can play up, and there are things you should play down to make, you know, that part of your work history relevant and consistent. Now, when people look at your resume, they see the continuity, okay? The experience that's not relevant, cut it out and replace it with relevant project experience. I hope I answered that question. How do we order it? Once again, you still in the reverse order of the work history. But if the experience is not relevant, you just don't write any bullet points. Question from Olena: what if you had 5 years gap? That's a good question. But working IT for over a decade before. Okay. I have come across people with different personal circumstances. In the last few years, we had COVID, and we had a lot of things that could leave a gap in your employment history. In Canada, in the US, I'm pretty sure you worry about any gap in the employment history, but as long as you can explain it, there are many ways you can explain it. You could take the time off, to take care of a family member, and you could take the time off to upskill yourself. Go to you invest in a program to break into a different industry. 5 or 6 years, 5 years gap is a big gap. I can understand that. But I think it's the same question you ask yourself. It's a personal decision. It's a choice you made. As long as it makes sense, I think people will understand. But what you really want to show people is, even though you didn't work during that time, you did A, B, and C in order to get back on the job market, right? So once again, technology and everything has changed so fast. Doesn't matter, and because you've had your work experience or background in IT, I think it's just a matter of time for you to get retrained, and then you can get back in the market. All right, so there's a question from Matthew. Are we supposed to see, hold on, top of the slide deck? This is top of the, we don't have a deck today, but I'm going to show you the components of the resume, but after that, we'll go back to the resume. And from Charlie, what should you write in bullet points about your project portfolio? Okay, we'll talk about project portfolio as well. You know what? Let me just talk about portfolio in a minute. Okay, so this, just give the machine a second to refresh. Okay, so guys, what you see right here is actually a mock-up of the project portfolio. So you can see this is my name. Hello, I'm Eric. I'm a BI consultant and storyteller based in Toronto. Okay. So you can see this is a very simple website, and with some content featured on the homepage. But over here, I have 4 sections: and about, now, blog, portfolio. So about is my personal information, and now is what I am up to, right? The most recent things about my career development, my personal growth. I can put it over here and blog, anything about data analytics or business intelligence I could blog about. I put it over here, and then portfolio. So let me just take you to about. So I have a welcome message, and then my background, my personality traits, and my skills. This is just a different way to introduce myself to people, right? And if I go now, there's not so much on this page, but basically you can put your monthly updates or weekly update. So I did this a while ago. I don't know, I didn't put the year. So this is November 1st and it's November 19th, all right? It's a template, it's a mock-up. So I go to blog, and then you can see I blog about anything, data related, and Power BI, how to pass SQL tests, why some visualization go viral, how to tell a success story, and stuff like that. But okay, I can actually show you maybe one of them. So if you read this on the web, you will actually, this will take you to a different page. So I actually put a video over here, and it will take you to YouTube, or you can actually play here without going to YouTube. So let me just take you to portfolio. So this is where I want you to see the structure of the project. How do we write about the project? I have, pretend I'm a student. I have done project in CRM, customer relationship management, digital marketing, retail and e-commerce, supply chain, fintech, risk management, big data platform, Microsoft 365 workflow automation. So it's actually different industries and different domains. So I'm hoping, by doing project in different areas, I can cover more jobs. So if I click on retail e-commerce, okay, so then let me just maximize this full page. So you can see I break it down to overview, and then goal and objectives, data flow, and this is the schema and the entity relationship diagram, and this is how you show your data model. And then I have dashboard markup, and I can open all these. You will see more content. Last but not least, you can see a cursor. We can show you different pages of the dashboard. So at a very high level, I think this is how you want to show your portfolio. Did I answer your question? Hope I answer your question. Okay, so let me go down from news. It looks like a couple of people are trying to join. Oh, let me see. Thank you. Yeah, we do have 5 people. Let me make them. Wait a second. Correct. Okay, Sophie, if you send me an email, I will send you Eric Lou at WeCloudData.com. Okay, please send me an email, and I will send you the link to my markup portfolio. All right. So let me just go back. Let me just go back to, you'll notice that I'm using Notion to post my portfolio website. But you can create your own website if you want. Yeah, what's going on? Oh, it's here. BI Learning Path. All right. So in the BI Learning Path, I put a career guide over here. Why BI and global BI trend. I really want to take you through this. The typical BI process. Okay. A typical BI process includes 4 steps. The first is business analysis, and then data analysis, data modeling, data visualization. And data visualization could be another word for business intelligence. So you can see that this process starts with business analysis, and it ends with business intelligence. So it's highly related to business, but in the middle, 2 steps are related to data. So business and data, business, data, data, business. Okay, so I want you to look at the process that way. So we start with the business, and we use data to serve business. But business analysis is really about, making sure we work on the right thing. We work on the right problem. So in this section, you want to find out how to make money in this business. So basically, you need to understand the business, the core process, and the key decision areas, and how people make decisions, and how people make decisions at different levels. So I'd like to draw your attention to this. So this is the hierarchy of work at 3 different levels, from high level at strategic level, and then in the middle, the tactical level, and at the bottom, operational level. So this picture, maybe the CEO and the other C-level, they make strategic decisions that has long-term consequence. The middle managers, they make midterm decisions that has midterm impact on the business. And all the employees working on the floor, you're involved in day-to-day operational tasks, but you also make decisions at the most detailed level. So when you do business analysis, you really want to find out, business team, they're your clients, and how they use data to make decisions at different levels. Okay. And only after business analysis, you will start, working on data, where to find the data, and what data you need, and where to find it. So data analysis, this is probably the most time-consuming and least exciting, but the most important part of the work. Okay. So it's all about making data work for the organizations. Preparing data for analysis is more than half the battle. So it's about sourcing data. And when you get data, data is raw and very messy, very dirty, and it's full of issues. So it involves data pre-processing. And after that, you will need to do some exploratory data analysis. Some of you know the term EDA, but it's more about, you generate the summary statistic, the average, the minimum, and the maximum, the outliers. So you see the quality of the data. You also see if there's any integrity issues. So if you identify data issues, you will need to know how to treat them. And sometimes you will have to go all the way to the source and where the data is created to find the issue and fix it. And after that, we have this process, and most people understand ETL. It's extract, transform, and node. All in all, you're trying to get data, process it, and make it usable. So after that, is data modeling. So you get data from everywhere, and then you need to structure data in a way that you can use it later on to generate insight into the business. So you need to almost create a data model that includes multiple tables, and you can connect them using primary and foreign key. So over here, the data model reflects the business model in a digital world. Data model is a shortcut to understanding business model. So over here, you will see the multi-dimensional relationship, and you use primary and foreign key to create one-to-many relationships between dimension tables and fact table. I think some of you probably see that this will go back to database and SQL. So in my opinion, SQL is the most important, not only because you can use the programming language to process data, it's also how you understand the data structure and how you manipulate the data structure. And SQL is behind tools like Power BI as well. Okay, so if you understand data model, everything after that will be so much easier. So the last step is almost the highlight of this process. So you take it to the next level, you create KPIs over here. So data visualization is about storytelling with data, and you produce dynamic interactive reports with 360-degree view of the business. And this is where you define how many dimensions do we need, the who, what, where, when, and how and why, and the measures, or you can call measures KPIs or metrics. And then you can use the data model or data cube. You can roll up and drill down, you can slice and dice, sort and rank, and you can use the traffic lights, and you can do conditional formatting to highlight the unusual trends and drivers. And end of the day, you will need to write up the findings. The findings include the conclusions and the recommendations. So you communicate this insight back to the business. And if you do this, you're going to realize the opportunity. Or if you do that, you're going to solve the problem before it gets bigger. But end of the day, we'll need to use the business terms to talk about your work and the impact of your work on the business outcomes. So just remember this. You will either talk about revenue growth and cost reduction, efficiency gain, and quality improvement. So I hope you have a high level, picture of this horizontal process, end to end, from business analysis to data analysis, data modeling, and data visualization. Any questions? Okay. A question from Jan. Yes, we record every session. So if you want to see a replay, also send me an email and I will send you the link to the recording. Okay. So let me just go back. So this is a career guide, and we use these tools: Excel, SQL, Python, Tableau, and Power BI. And I wrote multiple chapters about the process, and these are the practices, and we have some project. So this BA learning path is not the bootcamp, but I use this just to get the students warmed up, before the bootcamp starts. But I really want to take you through the skills and the project experience. Remember, skills are the most important part of your resume, and right below your name and the contact details. And if you don't have any relevant work experience, then the project experience is the most important. And this is probably something you can rely on to support the statement. So skills, you're making a statement. You have all these skills and you will be able to handle the job. But the project experience is the proof. So these projects I work on and the things I have done, the tools I have used, the problems I have solved, and the impact of my work on the project, these are all living proof of your capability, okay? So making a statement of your skills, and then you have to prove it with experience. Okay, where's my, okay, thank you, Sophie. Okay, so let's go through the skills first. And let me count the bullets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I just started to write this. So basically 10 to 11. This is, once again, a mock-up. This is something I show my students from day one. I tell them throughout the bootcamp, they're supposed to convert the experience into bullet points they can put on a resume, or interview stories they can tell the interviewer, during the interview. So make sure you understand every category. So altogether we have 10 or 11. Let's not, dive into the detail first. Let's just look at the category, the bold part of every sentence. So over here you can see several bullet points. They start with data, 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 data. And then you can see also business, 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 right? So at a very high level, you can see it's a combination of business domain knowledge and data skills, so data tools, okay? And most students, they rate 6 to 8 categories. You don't need to include all 10. It becomes a bit, too much. And once again, people will feel tired. So I encourage you to find your own personality, if you will. So if you come from certain background, you want to highlight, that area of your expertise and do that, okay? Once again, you're not trying to be all things to all people, so you must have a focus. So if you target financial service industry versus somebody who targets retail and e-commerce, I think the resume should be different, right? So when people look at your resume, they should think, this resume is made for financial service industry. I'm trying to say, data professional working in financial service industry versus data professional working in retail / e-commerce industry. So the resume should show that, okay? But at a very high level, I want you to include both data and the business. Because of the reason we just mentioned, the BI process actually includes 4 steps. Data is here to serve the business, so you have to show you have a professional range. So over here, we, on purpose, we put data before business to make you look a bit technical, okay? I think that's important. You actually draw your confidence from your technical expertise, because most of the time, your business domain knowledge, you either learn from indirect, from your research, or sometimes it could be Wikipedia level of understanding, but that works, that's okay. But in case you come from a business background, you may want to highlight that. In that case, if you put business before data, that's okay too. That's okay too. So I give you two examples. If you call yourself a BI consultant, you probably have a very strong business background versus somebody called themselves BI developer or BI engineer. Okay, so it's perfectly okay if you emphasize your background or your strengths. But the idea is you want to show people that your skills is a combination of business and data. But strategically, you could put data before business or business before data, whatever suits you. Okay. So over here, let's take a look at it. But for the technical or hard skills, we mention Excel. We even mention Excel. I think most of you still agree with me. Excel is still important and is probably the most widely used tool in the world. But just to differentiate yourself from the rest of the crowd, I want you to write advanced Excel. Just don't put formula or whatever function. You can just mention a few things. You don't have to mention everything, even Excel. You could put a full page of Excel features, but that doesn't really help you. I encourage you just to write a few functionalities or features, but you're telling people you're an advanced Excel user compared to somebody who is a junior or who is a beginner user of Excel. So over here, as you can see, I put XLOOKUP, SUMIF. I think Power Query, Power Pivot are a bit advanced, and pivot table slicers and timeline. And you only use them if you're trying to build a dashboard within Excel. So that is true. You can build dashboard within Excel. It's just not as convenient as Power BI, but it's still possible. So if you work for an organization that hasn't fully adopted Power BI, you probably will start with Excel, but you can still show people, for instance, Power Query and Power Pivot, and how much impact you can have on reporting if you use a data model in the background to support your dashboard. Okay, right? Okay, and the next one is statistics and machine learning. Some people have it and some people don't. So this is not meant to be a data scientist resume. If it's a resume made for data science, you probably need more than one bullet. You really want to highlight statistics and machine learning, okay? Otherwise, as a data analyst or BI analyst, you still need to have some exposure to statistics and machine learning. And if you have never learned machine learning, statistics. How much statistics? If I tell you statistics, what about sum, count, minimum, maximum, median, average? Those are statistics too, summary statistics. So I think everybody understands statistics. So you could have a bullet like this. Otherwise, you want to mention more advanced, knowledge about statistics and machine learning. You can mention hypothesis testing, A/B testing, clustering, classification, and regression. And once again, if you're a data scientist, you probably need to enhance this a bit more. Okay. And after this is probably the most important. Okay. That reflects, is reflected in the sequence. So if you don't really want to include this, you can start with programming, and that's perfectly fine. And as a data analyst, as a BI analyst, I encourage you to put SQL before Python. So even within this bullet, and the sequence matters. SQL is more important because you most likely will work with internal data, and internal data is structured as relational database. Okay, if that is the case, can we just live without Python? I still want you to put Python because Python is the future. Python is definitely the future, and with Python, you can make use of the world's data and any data you can find on the internet. And a lot of times you do need to augment the internal database with external sources, all right? So put Python, but most likely you will be tested on SQL, not on Python, okay? So once again, two programming tools, SQL and Python, but I still want you to put within bracket some of the most important features. And once again, we don't just choose these things randomly. We choose them for a reason, because nowadays even the students in the second year of university or college, and they put every tool they heard of on their resume. And if that is the case, how can you stand out from the crowd? So you definitely need to write about your programming skills differently. So in this case, within the bracket, and this is after a lot of thought. So you put complex joins, nested query, window function. You don't need to put all the features and all the tools or all the commands, but you put a few, enough to show the employer, the hiring manager, that you are a power user of SQL. So complex joins, nested query, window functions. You can write more. You can write transaction SQL, and then you can put down performance tuning and stuff like that, just to show the world that you are a power user of SQL. Okay, the same with Python. Any questions so far? All right. And why do we? Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much for your presentation. You're telling us about these skills, some other things, but this is too much. Whether we are supposed to have all of these, or you just explain us to about this.
No, some of these. This is not meant to be, not everyone will have all 10 bullet points. So you choose, and you may have something that that is your area of expertise, and you particularly want to add to it. That's fine too. But I encourage you to put 6 bullets minimum, maybe 8 bullets maximum, not too much. And then it could be a turn off when people say, "Oh, that's just way too much. I don't want to read this." You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
But not just two bullets. And then you're weak.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So something like this, I think will be really good. For instance, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This is good enough. This can fit very nicely into the skills section of your resume. All right. Okay. Some people say I already put SQL under programming. Why should I also put MySQL and SQL in database systems? And you need to understand SQL is both a programming language and a database system. And those who understand, I think, score more points. All right. So you definitely need to show SQL in both programming and database systems. So in terms of database systems, if you do the search using Google, so the most popular database systems, and you will see these three. So you probably will see MySQL number 1, SQL Server number 2, Postgre or MongoDB number 3. Okay, and some people put even more Redshift and BigQuery. This is Google, right? And this is important. That shows you have worked with different database system. Who knows? One company may have different, stack. That is the term, technology stack. They have different ecosystem. Some companies are Microsoft shop and they use everything Microsoft. So you bet they will have SQL Server, right? And some companies use Oracle, so MySQL is part of Oracle. Some companies use PostgreSQL. So if you put all three, and I mean, that should be choosable. So you have worked with all three database systems. You should put them all, right? And then, once again, you look more experienced compared to somebody who doesn't really know the difference. So to be honest, the difference is not so much. The setup, the syntax is very, very similar, okay? But after that, you also want to mention ERD, RDBMS. This is a relational database management system, star schema. So this is Microsoft again, dimensional data modeling. And these different terms, sometimes we use them interchangeably, the same thing. So you don't have to write them all. But if you write, let's say, dimensional data modeling, star schema, and that shows you understand data modeling or data model or data structure. Or if I use the fancy word, you understand data architecture. So this is important for that reason. Okay, and I explain why you need to put two separate bullets. Okay, let me see the question. Elena, I think my question didn't show up. How do you define your SQL level? Is it based on experience or how much you learn from book and program? It is based on your experience. So for instance, in our bootcamp, we drill you, with SQL, but eventually we will put you to work on real database. When I say real database, I mean, so you could work with like 20, 30 tables, and some of the fact tables could have 15 million rows. So when you work with a database that big, you will come across different problems. For instance, when you write a SQL query, you notice that it runs very slow. That's because, maybe your query is correct, but it simply is not efficient. So you will need to use technique like indexing to improve the performance, or you will try to avoid joins or nested queries. And you will try to just rewrite the query so the performance is better. And if you have experience like that, and people will see that you didn't just do some toy project and it's actually industry grade, and you know how to write production quality code, okay? And employer pick you for that quality. I hope I answered your question. Sophie, I have been using ChatGPT to predict, very nice, to predict a list of skills each time I submit my resume. I'm deleting the parts I don't have, but I haven't been able to find work yet. If it's a bad idea, okay. So Sophie, ChatGPT is very helpful. And if you know how to ask the right question, sometimes it's not just one question, and sometimes you need to ask multiple questions, and each time is a iteration. I think it's a good idea for you to, let me give you a suggestion. I want you to copy paste all the bullet points into an Excel, and that is very strange. It's a weird thing to do, using Excel to manage your paragraphs or bullet points. But I encourage you to do that. Just copy paste if you look at your own resume as of now, it is just a list of bullets, nothing more, nothing less, right? Just copy paste to Excel. And then later on, I want you to categorize them. It's not a good idea to customize your resume for every opportunity. It's a much better strategy that you figure out which industry and which sector you want to focus. And then you develop a resume and you use that resume consistently. And if that resume is not getting you interviews, it's not because of the customization, because for a given industry and for the similar type of roles in a given industry, I tell you, the requirements and the qualifications are 80–90% the same. So it's a bad idea that you try to spend half an hour customizing a resume for every opportunity you apply for, because I simply don't trust the quality of that half an hour work. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so let's keep going. We can actually vote on this, because some people will say, oh, this is important, and some other people will say, this is even more important. Important from which perspective? If you say it's important or I say it's important, that doesn't count. It's important because the employer thinks it's important. It is important to the employer, okay? What about data governance? Data governance is all about, how do we ensure data is accurate, is complete, and is delivered on time, right? So data governance is definitely important. You even have roles, so you even have titles, analyst data governance. If you're involved in building the infrastructure, the data pipeline, a lot of times you will need to make sure the quality of the data, the integrity of the data is solid, right? So how to write about data governance? So over here, this is just one way to write it. Build data validation rules to detect and solve, not just detect the data quality issue, but to solve it, right? And what kind of data you use? And once again, I don't know if you notice, every single time I write, even though it's really, really short, I always give people specific details. So even over here, data quality issue, we don't just say data quality issues, we give people examples. So over here, we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. 5 different data quality issues. Missing values is definitely one. Duplicates is one. Outliers is one. Anomalies and formatting errors. So we do this. And then people walk away because it is so bad if you give people general and generic descriptions, and those words just don't make a dent. Then they don't leave people with any impression. But over here, when you read about data quality issue and you're showing people, you know what you're talking about, right? You're not just repeating the term data quality, so you really understand it, right? Okay, so you understand the data quality issue, but how to solve it? Over here, this is also very short but very punchy. So the right way to solve the data quality issue is you just don't fix the mistakes in your report. If you're responsible, you want to go upstream and find out why the raw data from the source is wrong, right? So you need to solve data quality issue at source, and it's even better. You can solve the data quality issue at the moment of creation, so it won't become an issue anymore in future, right? So I want you to believe that we wrote these paragraphs not just randomly. It's after a lot of thoughts. So I hope you realize that. Okay. Question from Vernal: is data governance the same thing as data wrangling? No. Data wrangling is data management, data manipulation. So for instance, you can change the shape of data from white to long or long to white, like pivot, unpivot. That's data wrangling. So you manipulate data, you transform data. Data governance is all about making sure when data flows, you either have process touching the data or you have human touching the data. And it's a very bad idea. You have human touching the data manually. And it's also really bad when you see hundreds of people, they work with data within Excel on their desktop. And if there's any mistake made, there is no way for us to trace it to where the mistake was made. And that is simply an example where data governance doesn't exist. I hope I made myself clear. So data governance is making sure we use good data to make decisions. All right. So Shande, do you think objective summary is necessary? That's a good question. If you do not have any experience, I just completed data analytics booking 5 months ago. Okay. Some people say write a summary, meaning between your name, contact details, and between your name and skills. I think it's a good idea sometimes. If people don't have time, if people have only 10 seconds to read your resume, and that's probably what you want them to read. And it's like, it's the written form of the answer. It's a written answer to the question, tell me about yourself. So basically you tell people your education background, your experience, you put 5 years or 3 years experience, you put your strengths, including hard skills and soft skills. Sometimes you also put your accomplishment. It's extremely tricky, how you write your summary in a short paragraph, but that's like your 10-second bio. But here's the big but. And if you have a 1-page resume and sometimes you run out of space, you really want to include the most important things that you want to show you the best version of you. Sometimes you run out of space. So if that is the case, I want you to leave out the summary and use the space for more important stuff. Okay, yeah, now that would be my advice. If you're a new grad, you don't have that much to put on a resume, by all means, you can put a summary. some people even ask, should I put education before everything else? I don't like that. I think it's always better to put education at the bottom. But in case you graduate from a great university, you really want to draw people's attention to that, you can put that in your summary. You can put a recent grad from Stanford University or something like that, and then people, that is a great university, and hopefully you will score some points or more points that way. Okay, I hope I answered that. All right, let's keep going. So we finished data governance. What about data analysis and reporting? Okay, so this is probably your primary responsibility, and every data analyst, I think, will do this analysis and report. Difference between analysis and report. Have you heard of ad hoc analysis and or maybe one-time ad hoc analysis, or maybe ongoing reporting, the regular reporting? The difference is not everybody understands the difference. So ad hoc analysis is most of the time is people just ask you random questions. Business people from business teams, they ask you random questions, but you will need to, let's say, create a SQL query and then get data and maybe export data into Excel and create a table or maybe even a chart to answer that question. But that is a one-time question, and after that, you will never get this question again. Okay, so that's ad hoc, meaning one time, random, versus reporting. This is a report that people want on a daily basis, sometimes weekly or monthly, or and it's an ongoing report, but you need to update it every week, every month. So there's a big difference between the two. I think most people fear ad hoc analysis because it's less predictable, right? But this is actually where you learn the most. Why? Because if you have different people from business team, they all come to you and with random questions. If you can handle that, it's random and people need the answer right away. And if you can handle that, you probably are very good, right? Versus reporting. And let's say you join a new company, you can learn from the senior or whoever used to produce this report. It's easy. You just shadow that person, maybe borrow the code, and you reproduce the report for the same months and make sure there's no mistake. And then you can pretty much do the same thing for another month and another month, and that's not that hard. Okay, so I hope you understand the difference between ad hoc analysis and online reporting. But the details, turn the questions into queries and turn data into insights. That's what you do, right? And then visualize the measures by dimensions and roll up and drill down and slice and dice and sort and rank, present findings and recommend actions with real impact on business. I am repeating this. I think you saw this in the Be a Career Guide. So this is pretty good, solid bullet. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, by all means, but I think these are really good things for you to put on your resume. Okay, here we go. As we move down, this is almost the highlight of the process. Remember, data visualization and storytelling. Power BI, Tableau. And once again, we put Power BI before Tableau, simply because Microsoft is bigger, or Power BI is more popular. It is more popular right now. And once again, we don't just put Power BI and Tableau. Too weak. You just have to throw or give people a few specific things just to show you are a more advanced user of Power BI. For instance, ETL, data modeling, DAX. I've heard people say, oh, they have worked with Power BI for a long time. And then I ask them, have you worked with DAX? You know, and then they ask, well, what's DAX? Then immediately, I think you can tell that person doesn't really know Power BI. So this is very big in Power BI. And for those of you who come across Tabular Editor and DAX Studio, so these are two add-ins from a company called SQL BI, I think. And then let's prove you're a very advanced user. And custom visuals, interaction design, these are also important. Okay, any question? All right, from Matthew, how do you get good at grabbing business impact metrics? Interesting. So ask questions, Charlie is trying to answer this question. Ask questions of your stakeholders would be one way. Yes. Yes. KPI, of course, is different, you know, from department to department, from company to company. But a lot of times you see the same KPI for marketing and sales. So for marketing and sales, think about it, the KPI as well. Probably needs and sales, right? Volume and revenue, number and dollars, right? So in this case, you could have sales as a very important KPI, but sales, you can look at sales from multiple different dimensions. Sales by what? Sales by region, sales by product, sales by customer, sales of the top 10 customers. So that's the reason why it's important for you to define both KPI and dimensions. And once you define both, you have a fairly good idea how you want to model the data or where you can get the data from. So this is the quality I think the employers are looking for. So by interacting with the business team at different levels, so once again, you need to interview maybe the VPs and the managers and the day-to-day employees who are running the shop. Probably they will give you, the same set of KPI, but at different angles or from different dimensions. And you need both. You know? So when you interview people, you ask them, how do you use this data? Okay, now what kind of questions do you want to get answered? Sometimes you can even create a sandbox or a mock-up, a chart or graph. Is this how you interpret the business results? Or maybe, what about this? And people say, oh, that's pretty much what I want to see, but you just need to change this a little bit, right? So it's through a lot of interactions with the business team before you really understand their needs and wants and requirements. So you don't have to be the expert about, you can identify an expert from the business team, make friends with that person, and that person will help you, with the business requirements. And you also need to make friends with somebody in IT because that person will help you solve all kinds of data issues. And then you're set, okay? So you take care of your supplier, you take care of your customer, and through iterations, the reporting package or the BI solutions will just get better, okay? Jareed, I've heard several times that recruiters only spent 5 to 10 seconds scanning a resume. I know this kind of, it just blew my mind. Like even the fastest speed reader is not like that good. Seems like there's some other, yeah, heuristic that is not being articulated as well. Perhaps it's like this candidate didn't go through the resume writing again, so that means they aren't taking the job search problem seriously. This is a huge problem, you know, when people are screening the candidate using a resume and a resume alone. It's very, very likely they will filter out some really good candidates. And you also have people, they're not what they say on the resume. And nobody enjoy resume. We don't enjoy writing resume, and the recruiters, they don't enjoy reading resume. And imagine somebody whose job is reading resume all day. I think that's kind of depressing. I'm not kidding, you know. The whole job search process, I think, is very, very bad. Everybody enjoys the reward at the end, but nobody enjoys the process. But how can we make it less bad? I think that's the question. That's the question. And in my opinion, Jared, I think resume is like a piece of art. It is one of the most important documents in your life. What's the other one? I'm not talking about, you know, birth certificates or marriage certificate. I'm talking about resume and interview script. So today is not about interviews, not about how to write down your stories word by word, but today is about one document, which is resume. So I think resume, like every one of us, is a work in progress, and it's never finished. And there were times, you know, my mentee, my students, they sent me their resume, for instance, first and last name and final, you know, resume final. I laughed. I laughed at them. I said, there's no final. There's always room for improvement. But think about this from a different perspective. If other people don't enjoy, or if we don't even enjoy reading our own resume, I think there is a problem. There is a problem. So I believe the most important document in our life deserves the time. We spend lots of time learning skills and building projects, but unfortunately, most people, they spend, I don't know, a couple hours, maybe just going through day and night, you know, and get it done, and you don't want to touch it again. And sometimes I ask my mentee to work on a resume, and they say, I would rather work on something else. So why? Resume is important, but there are also times, I want to tell you, resume is just one of the things, one of the uncomfortable things, and the only way you can get better is to do more of it. Just do more of it. Revision, another revision, another revision. Okay, so for me, I read people's resume and I help them with the resume. But I have seen those moments when the mentee, you know, after maybe days and days of work with me, and when they pick up their resume, they like it so much and they don't want to put it down. Just picture that. I think if you feel, you know, when you're reading your own resume, you don't want to put it down, I think the resume is ready to go. Okay, so let's go through the rest of that. I know it's not fun, but you know, let's try to enjoy the process. Data visualization storytelling, business domain knowledge. I mean, the business world is so big. What do you choose to write down here. So this is just an example. For instance, we put CRM, and particularly, so every single time we put a generic term, we put a specific detail to make it stand out, at a more advanced level. So CRM, email campaign. Now you can put something else. Customer segmentation, FRM. Those of you who know, this is just one methodology. Recency, frequency, and monitoring. Product recommender system, product recommendation. You can use market basket analysis, digital marketing, and it is essentially trying to solve the marketing attribution problem. Financial planning and analysis, FP&A, or you can put something else. But essentially, this shows you, even though you didn't go to business school, you understand business. And this is important to you. I guarantee you, when you start looking for jobs, every single opportunity, when you get the interview notice, interview invitation, you will feel like you're a little short. You feel short, and that's normal. That's normal. But most of the times, I think 60% or 70% of the interview question, it's predictable. And that's right from the beginning. When you write your resume to target certain industry, and you know these bullets important because of the insider information your mentors share with you, all right? But for that reason, you don't just write this on the resume. You have to get a Wikipedia level understanding of what this is. What is financial planning and analysis? It's not just a term. And once again, you can use ChatGPT. It's very, very handy for you to get a really good, solid understanding of this. I think over time, you can form a habit of, if you get an interview invitation, and the interview is on Friday, so today is what, Tuesday? So we have 2 days to prepare. I think you have enough time to do enough research about the industry, the company, and the particular role. And you will write down things, and you will talk about those things, and you will sound like a pro. You sound like you understand it. And you need to do this, even though you have never worked in the industry. I think that's the expectation. The employer expects you to walk that distance to gain good enough understanding. But what's even better, if you have done project previously, and you will have a much better understanding of financial planning and analysis. If you have done project in human resource analytics or people analytics, there shouldn't be any problem for you to understand the KPIs for people analytics. Okay, and I will go through one of them, just so you see what I meant. Okay, and business analysis. This is also important, and we just put down 4 words over here. I think that's important. Clarify questions, validate assumptions. And that is the difference between 2 employees, 2 analysts. One of them, without even understanding the question, you go back to your desk and get busy, and start coding. Versus the other one, who believe asking stupid questions is better than fixing stupid problems. And it's always a good thing for you to clarify the question, make sure you get it right, you work on the right problem. And sometimes you thought you understand it, but you really don't. So it's important for you to validate your assumptions because your assumptions may not be true. So if you form a habit of clarify questions and validating assumptions, and then you are a good BA. You know, you at least have the BA thinking. All right, and define KPIs, and these are some of the most important skills. Define KPIs to measure the health of the business and the performance of the business. Okay, and develop life cycle. Any question about skills? Charlie, did you ever have to read resumes all day? Not all day, but someday I need to, you know, maybe work with 3 mentees, and you know, I need to read maybe 3 resumes. I enjoy it to some extent when I see the resume before and after, and especially when the mentee or the student start to get interviews. I know the resume is working, and then the next challenge is to make sure the student and the mentee live up to the expectations. Because let me tell you this, if you put all this on your resume, you know, the skills and the project experience, you can copy paste. I guarantee you, chances are you will get interviews. But this is the curse. And these resumes will raise the expectations of the employers, and you will have to live up to that expectations. Otherwise, every single time you receive an interview invitation and you go there as a big disappointment. So it's also a matter of managing expectation. And I think the key to the interview, to winning an interview, is you have to exceed people's expectation. So people have certain level of expectation, and you have to surprise them. And then chances are great you will win the job. Take it until you make it. That is true. So on the flip side, interview is no big deal. It's just an hour, maybe 45 minutes, right? And you should feel very glad that 70% of the questions are predictable. And then you can work with your mentor to write up the 7 stories to answer 7 questions. I always say 7 stories because I believe an interview probably will have 7 questions. So it's important to know ahead of time what is coming and make sure you have the best story. And you need to over practice. You need to practice in front of desks and chairs. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you feel, the more confident. And that's, I think, what you meant by fake it until you make it. Matthew, any advice for predicting interview questions for different roles? Yeah, I think if you break it down by role, by industry, and by function, so if you know the industry, and then if you zero in industry, business, function, and role, and then it's pretty easy to predict the questions. And that's why it's important for you to work with a mentor, because those people from that industry, they have the insider information. I think it's even more important for both you and the mentor to do some research about that person, that hiring manager, right? And that person's background and previous jobs he held. And is he technical? He may not be technical, but what if he bring a peer analyst with him? So you still need to prepare for the technical question. And sometimes you will have 2 rounds, or sometimes you will have 3 rounds. And sometimes you need to crack a business case or maybe a coding test before you even get to see the hiring manager. So you see, it's a different strategy for you to go see a recruiter or HRBP, a human resource business partner, or recruiting specialist, talent acquisition specialist. So they're basically HR, and the screening interview is probably 15 minutes versus the real interview, the real deal, the real interview with the hiring manager could last half an hour to an hour long, right? And that's a complete different conversation. So my advice is, yeah, to predict the question first, because I feel like everything I say, if I know the question, and then it becomes so much easier to make a point, and then you know what, the time you spent on this will not be wasted, because trust me, for a given industry, for a given role, 70% of the questions are the same. So chances are you will recycle some of these stories you wrote for yourself. If you write down maybe 10 stories, I think you can get by, but compared to other candidates, you really want to out-practice them. That's how you win a job. All right, so let me just check the time. We have 28 minutes left. Let's go through some of the project experience and see how we write them. Do we have any HR analytics? And I do, the last one. Okay, so this is where I see most people, they immediately think. So before you go to an interview, some people panic and right away say, should I practice SQL? So, I mean, interview is Friday and today is Tuesday. You have only 2 days. How much better you can get if you practice SQL nonstop for 2 days? I think you should practice SQL maybe once every week just to keep warm, right? To keep sharp. But in times like this, you receive an interview invitation and it's Friday, you have only 2 days left. The time is, I think, well spent. The other side, it's on the business side. So it's not technical. You should spend more time researching about the company and the role. So, for instance, HR analytics must be very different from financial planning and analysis. If we look at this, here are 5 bullets. I'm not saying this is the best way to write this project, but it's just one way. Let's just go through them together. So this is a project, it's not a job. So there is no employer, but you put the name of the project over here, and you put a pipe over here. You can put the tools you use. So over here we put Excel, 7 tables, Power Query, Power BI, and DAX. Okay, so this is just one way to write about it. And over here we see financial planning and analysis. QuickBooks, it's a accounting software for a small business. What else? So mega stores. So over here we see the industry I put. So this is the name of the project. This is the industry, and these are the tools we use. What about this? Canadian Real Estate Investment Trust. So this is a REIT. It's a real estate industry, and then this is the tools. Okay, so I think you get my point. It's a CRM, email campaign, telecom industry, SQL Server. All right. So you can see sometimes you use more than one tool. See here. Can I talk about my experience in development in a data analyst resume? Tricky question. If you're switching from development, I assume it's software development, to a data analyst. I think, without knowing the whole you, I think your resume should reflect. You should be very strong with ETL, with data warehousing. So you can mention SDLC, for instance, software development lifecycle, because it's part of that project, right? So like any project probably has a data component, and then you can mention you're part of the development team, or maybe you work on the data component of that big project. So you should mention it, even for BI, business intelligence, because business intelligence becomes a product now. It's a solution, right? So if it is a product, if it is a solution, it should go through the same development lifecycle. So all the way from analysis to development to acceptance to production. So it's a good thing you mentioned that, right? And sometimes you could even change your title to BI developer. I think that's the best combination of data and software. Yeah. So it's more about data programming versus application programming, I guess. There's a difference between the two, but I think you could mention the development experience. Development experience also leave people with the impression that you work on the things that will go into production. So that means you gotta have good quality, right? Okay, so I hope I answer your question. So now let's look at HR analytics. This is how I strategize the bullets. So over here we have 5 bullets, and here we have 3. Should we have 3 or 5 or 2 or 4? If you have multiple bullets, I'd like you to put maybe the first bullet mentioning the objective. Objective. It has to be one of the 4. Solve business problem, maybe answer business questions, solve business problem, support business decision, create value for the business. I mean, this is very, very high level. But in the first bullet, I want you to give the reader a sense of purpose. Otherwise, people read this writing book and they have no idea what this is. It's just very technical. They don't understand it. So I think it's always a good thing that you start with something business and you end with business, because you start with the objective, and the last bullet, ideally, you achieve that objective, right? Or you achieve certain major milestones, working toward that objective. And then the 1 or 2 or 3 bullets in the middle, it's just the means to the end. So objective in the first bullet and outcome in the last bullet, and then the process maybe in the middle. So that's a very simple structure for you to sequence, to strategize the bullets. It's not just a random list of unordered bullets, okay? So over here, let's see. So what's the objective? The objective is to support talent acquisition team, HRBP. Have you heard of HRBP? Well, if you throw this term, and people will see, oh, you surprise them, because on your resume, and this is the only project you work on, HR analytics. You didn't work in HR function, and you have never had any experience, but somehow you got all these terms right. I think that's a good thing. Support talent acquisition team, design and build a self-serve BI solution to enable data-driven decisions. Be specific, data-driven decision, capacity planning, and efficiency measurement. I'm not saying this is already good enough. Sometimes I think we're still confused. If that is the case, we need to rewrite it until it's clear. Let's look at the last one. Communicated insight and presented recommendations to help HRBP develop and execute strategies to improve talent acquisition and retention. Is this clear to you? Talent acquisition is hiring, right? Retention is keeping. So it's about finding the good people and keeping them. Finding the good people and keeping them. I think those of you who work in CRM, you probably have heard of, it's the same for customer acquisition and retention. You want to find good customers and keep them, right? And same is true with talent. So I think that this part is good, improve talent acquisition and retention. So, but there are no numbers. I think that's the downside of it, right? How much improvement? If you had any numbers, dollars, percentage, it's better to put here. Communicate insight and presented recommendations. And once again, I like these two. You not only communicate the insight, but you recommend it to the business team. If you do this, this will be the result, right? So that's even better. Sometimes it's not enough just to give people tables and charts, and it's better if you add a commentary saying that if you do this, then this will be the result. So you can monetize the opportunity, or you can solve the problem before it gets bigger. Okay. All right. So I hope this makes sense to you. So now let's look at the 3 bullets in the middle. Analyze the current recruitment process and steps. Process and steps. So process has a number of steps. And data and reporting needs to measure talent acquisition and retention efficiency. So this is conversion funnel. Okay, collected, process, transform data from various sources into various formats with various ECUs. Let's look at this. Various sources in various formats with various ECUs. And once again, you could say it's not specific. It could be specific. And then create a star schema data model with Power BI. And then this one. So here, I think I mentioned dimensions and measures. Define 6 dimensions and 12 KPIs. I think this is specific enough. 6 dimensions: month, location, function, row, step, and source. And KPI, number of candidates, number of specialists, number of managers. And then you can do ratios. Candidates divided by hiring manager, and candidates divided by, I think this is talent acquisition specialist. Duration, conversion rate, hires, targets, quit, stays, those people who quit, and those people who stay, and attrition rate. I mean, this might be too much detail, but once again, if you read the 5 bullets, I think you probably understand this project to some extent. Maybe confused. I'm saying this can be improved. Okay, so let me look at a question. Jarit. I heard this, okay, analogy in a class recently. Traditional software development requirements to code to data, data-driven or DDD, data code requirements. Interesting. Okay, so that's just a comment. From Matthew, that this format worked on job experience too, objective, outcome, and process in between. I think so, yeah. I mean, Matthew, I don't think it's a good idea just to write down your roles and responsibility. I think it's not what you do, but how well you did it, right? So it's not activities. I think it's the results you want to highlight. Yeah. And once again, Matthew, you don't need to write down everything you did in this job. I know you're trying to make people see the wholeness of, of this world, but you only have 4 or sometimes even 3 bullet points. You just want to highlight your accomplishment. Or accomplishments doesn't just, it's not accomplishment. I think it's still a good idea to start with the objective and then the process and then the outcomes. So business and technical. So business at the beginning and the end, and the technical part, how you did it in the middle. Or you can use a different structure, but it should make sense. The most important bullet as the first bullet, the least important, the last bullet. I hate to read 3 bullets and they're completely unrelated. I like to see a writing block, each build upon the previous one. So when you finish reading the 3 bullets, you will feel like, oh, it's very coherent, and you almost see the candidate, doing good work in that route. All right. I know you have some suggestions. What couple technically related? I think I answered that question. Very much appreciate session. Thank you. You mentioned all of those details. This sounds like a helpful structure. If you're working on non-real world data as a project exercise, how would you measure your project impact? That's a good question from Charlie. So the actual outcomes, what about expected outcomes? I think we should always measure the work you did, because what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. Or even you don't feel good about the work you did, right? So you really want to see, did I do a good job on this? What do you mean? How do you define good job? So if I need to attach a dollar figure to it, how much is it, right? So expected outcome could be numbers, could be dollar, could be percentage change, improvement. So once again, you can categorize the accomplishments into more revenue, lower costs, better quality. What else? Higher efficiency, right? Even, quality, in terms of quality, I have seen a process. It could be a process. You see KPI like the first time right. So if you measure the data entry, whoever get the first get the data right the first time, and that's a KPI. So we need to get used to mentioning KPI. All right. Okay, so Matthew, each of my bullets have an accomplishment near a little scattered, I think, based on this information. That's fine. If you, let's say you work 3 different rows in the same departments, and each row could be 1 bullet, but they should still be related because it's the same company, same business, right? So for instance, you can use the flip side of the same business. For instance, I work in marketing and I also work in risk management. So marketing is about volume. We always want quantity. We want to get more customers. But risk management is about quality. You can't just approve everyone, and quality is important. So maybe the first bullet will be, so I work in the bank, so it's marketing risk. So I could say a catch-all sentence. So I support growth. So that's about revenue, that's about marketing. Support growth, control risk, and maximize profit. I think that's well worded, and it's balanced, check and balance. The second bullet, I will show you how I support growth, how I support marketing to target the right customers and keep them, right? And the third one, I will show, this is my primary objective, which is to control losses, right? So this way, I think you make these two the flip side of the same business, and they're very closely related. Okay, how many bullet points for each project? I think if you have 4 bullets, I know 5 bullets are a bit too much. I really like 3, 4 maximum. 3, I think 3 are the best, and 2 a little short. But if that job is less relevant, 2 or 1 or even none is okay. Don't be afraid to, because you can mention 4 jobs and people get lost, or you can highlight 2 jobs and people have a fairly good understanding what you did and what you have accomplished, and it's your choice. And Anina, can you put job title, data analyst, freelancer, and okay. I like to put data analyst trainee, maybe data analyst, because it's not a paid job. By doing this, you avoid the problem. Let's say you get an interview and the interview went well, and then you receive an offer. So they're doing the reference check, and you will have a hard time with that job. So if you put data analyst training and people know that it's not a paid employment, and they're not going to ask you for your I don't know, tax statement or your pay slip to support, to show people that you indeed had that job, just to avoid the issue you might come across later on. But I want you to believe that, the project experience, if you do it well, is highly valued by employer. In fact, let me tell you this. A lot of the work experience can be day-to-day operational, and sometimes there's not so much to write about, but project experience has a clear goal and milestones that you can put on a resume, and it's easily, presentable, and because it's not confidential information, so you can put on your portfolio, and you can present it during the interview. And I like to say portfolio is important, and talking about the project is equally important. So we encourage our students and mentees, and they practice over and over again, and during the interview, ask for 3 minutes to present their project. And they usually do a really good job, because they have done this, with each other, or maybe with the mentor. And the way they present the project will be able to impress the employer. Okay, great. 4 minutes to go. Any more questions before we call it a day? Oh man, there are 2 people wanting to join the last minute. Okay, otherwise, I'm going to leave you with, so this is my calendar. If you click my calendar, you will be able to schedule a session with me. So we can discuss you. And it's even better if you send me your resume ahead of time, so I'm prepared for the meeting. And this is totally free. So we can just talk about you and in your circumstance, what are the things you need to do to break into this field, this industry, and how you strategize your next move. Okay. And I also put my email here. So send me email with questions you may have, so I can answer email as well. The recording will be available, I think, before noon tomorrow. And if you send me an email asking for recording, and I will send you the link. All right, so 2 minutes left, and I thank you for your time, and I hope every one of you, walk away with something useful. Once again, stay connected with the community, feel strong. I mean, the economy is not doing that great, but I think a lot of us, if you choose either data or software, I think it's still in high demand. You will be able to sustain, right at this difficult time. Thank you very much. Bye for now.